The day my younger sister looked me in the eyes and said, "You're not welcome here anymore," something inside me died. What hurt even more was that my mother didn't defend me, she simply folded her arms, looked away, and quietly nodded. That silent agreement shattered 28 years of love, sacrifice, and loyalty. I stood in the doorway with one suitcase in my hand, the same house where I had paid the bills, the same house where I had sacrificed my dreams so everyone else could have theirs. Now, I was nothing more than an unwanted guest, without shouting, without begging, without a single tear in front of them. I turned around and walked away. I never imagined that one quiet decision would become the beginning of the greatest revenge of my life. My name is Olivia Harper, and for years I believed family meant forever. After my father passed away, I was only 22. College suddenly became impossible. Someone had to keep the family together. So I worked 2 jobs, morning shifts at a grocery store, night shifts cleaning office buildings. Every paycheck went toward mortgage payments, electricity bills, groceries, and my sister Emma's university tuition. Whenever Mom cried about money, I told her not to worry. Whenever Emma wanted expensive clothes or vacations with friends, I found a way. I postponed my own dreams because I believed one day they would remember everything I had done. Instead, they remembered none of it. 5 years later, life had changed. Emma graduated, she married a wealthy real estate investor named Daniel. Suddenly, everyone acted as if Emma had always been the successful daughter. Family gatherings became celebrations of her achievements. Whenever relatives praised Daniel's expensive cars and luxury lifestyle, Mom smiled proudly. Nobody mentioned the years I had kept the lights on. I had quietly become invisible. Then one afternoon, Mom called. "Can you come home? We need to discuss something." I thought perhaps she needed help with another bill. Instead, they were waiting for me in the living room. Emma, Daniel, Mom. 3 serious faces. 3 people who had already made a decision before I even sat down. Emma cleared her throat. "We think it's time you move out." I stared at her. "What?" Daniel smiled politely. "This house needs a fresh start." Mom refused to meet my eyes. Emma continued. "You make people uncomfortable." I laughed in disbelief. "I've lived here longer than both of you." She crossed her arms. "You're not welcome here anymore." Silence. I waited for Mom. Surely she'd say something, anything. Instead, she quietly whispered, "I think Emma is right." That sentence hurt more than losing my father. I packed one suitcase. Mom didn't hug me. Emma watched from the hallway. Daniel stood with folded arms, making sure I actually left. As I stepped outside, Emma called after me. "And don't expect us to help you later." I smiled for the first time all day. "I won't." Those were the last words I ever spoke to them before disappearing from their lives. The next 6 months were brutal. I slept in a tiny apartment with peeling paint. I worked 16-hour days. Every night I studied online business courses, marketing, finance, digital branding, leadership. I refused to waste my pain. Pain became fuel. I saved every dollar. No vacations. No shopping. No excuses. While everyone thought I had failed. I was quietly building something extraordinary. One rainy evening, an elderly woman entered the small coffee shop where I worked. She accidentally dropped important business documents. I helped organize everything. She thanked me with a warm smile. Her name was Margaret Collins, owner of a struggling luxury home decor company. During conversation she noticed my business ideas written inside a notebook. Instead of laughing, she listened. For 2 hours. At the end she asked, "Would you like to help save my company?" That single question changed my future. I worked harder than ever. Within 1 year, sales doubled, then tripled. We expanded nationwide. Margaret eventually retired. Before leaving, she handed me ownership shares. "You built this," she said. "You deserve it." 3 years later. I became CEO. Our company was valued at over $80 million. Magazine interviews, television appearances, awards. Success had finally found me, not because someone rescued me, but because betrayal had forced me to rescue myself. Meanwhile. Emma's perfect life slowly collapsed. Daniel's risky investments failed. Lawsuits followed. Banks froze their assets. Luxury cars disappeared. Friends stopped calling. Even the beautiful house they once bragged about entered foreclosure. Then something unexpected happened. One afternoon, my assistant entered my office. "There's a woman asking to see you." "Who?" "She says she's your mother." I looked toward the glass doors. There she was, older, tired, holding the same handbag she'd carried the day I left. Beside her stood Emma. The confidence was gone. She looked frightened. For several minutes. I simply watched. The same women who once watched me leave with one suitcase were now standing outside my office with nothing. I invited them inside, not because they deserved kindness. Because I deserved closure. Mom immediately began crying. "We made mistakes." Emma avoided eye contact. "We lost everything." Then came the sentence I had expected. "We need your help." I remained silent. Mom reached across the table. "We're family." Family, the word almost made me laugh. Where had family been when I slept alone in a freezing apartment? Where had family been when I skipped meals just to pay their bills? Where had family been when I stood outside my own home with nowhere to go? I calmly opened a folder. Inside were copies of every mortgage payment, every tuition receipt, every utility bill, every expense I had covered for years. I slid them across the table. I already helped. Neither of them spoke. You called me a burden. You threw me away. You told me I wasn't welcome. I leaned forward. Today you're welcome here. They looked relieved, then I finished my sentence. As visitors. Not as family. Emma finally broke down. I'm sorry. I was jealous. You were always stronger. I hated that everyone depended on you. For the first time, she told the truth. Mom cried harder than ever. I chose the easier child instead of the better one. But some wounds don't disappear because someone finally apologizes. I stood up, walked to the large office window overlooking the city. Years earlier, I had walked away from one house. Today, I owned buildings they could only dream of entering. Success wasn't my revenge, healing was. Becoming everything they said I never could be, that was revenge. Without screaming, without destroying anyone. Without hatred. Before they left, I handed Mom a business card. It belonged to a local employment agency. I won't give you money. But I'll give you the same opportunity life gave me. Emma looked disappointed. She had expected millions. Instead, she received something far more valuable. A chance to earn her future. Just as I had. Months later, I heard Mom had found a small job. Emma started working in retail after never having worked a single day before. They slowly rebuilt their lives. Without shortcuts, without someone sacrificing everything for them. As for me, I never returned to that old house. I didn't need to, because the girl who had once left with one suitcase no longer existed. She had become a woman no betrayal could ever break again. And the house they kicked me out of, it was eventually sold to pay their debts. The only thing they truly lost wasn't the property. It was the daughter and sister who had loved them more than they ever deserved. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't taking everything from those who betrayed you. It's becoming so successful that they realize they threw away the best person they ever had.